Welcome to another update here in the old studios for TandemCTelevision, and we're one step closer to finishing the new studio for TandemCTelevision. We've added the electrical wall outlets we're going to be needing. So let's go ahead and take a look at how that was done. Don't go anywhere. When it comes to this garage that we're turning into the new studio for TandemCTelevision, it's basically a blank canvas. It really has no outlets in it except for one, but basically has no outlets, and we can place the outlets we're going to be using or needing anywhere we want. Now, with that in mind, this is going to be used as a studio for now, but maybe not forever. So I got to keep in mind, not only for studio use, but also if we convert this back into a garage, I want those outlets to be appropriately located. So I really thought about what the best way to do this was and what I came up with. And of course, let me know if you think this is the right way to go down in the comments, but what I decided to do is run basically two 20 amp circuits around the garage. So what I'm going to do is on the right side wall, if you face into the garage or into the studio, the wall on the right, I'm going to run two outlets down low that are both GFCI outlets, and each one are going to be the start of a 20 amp circuit. I'm doing them lower because if in the future, if this is a garage, I don't know why you would have outlets up high over here. They wouldn't need to be above any workbenches over on the car side of the garage. And for my studio use, I need them down low to run down onto the floor and onto the ground. So that's going to be the start of my circuits. And we're going to run around to the back wall. Those two circuits are going to run to the back wall. And basically what I'm going to do here is have 5 outlets, 3 up high, 2 down low. And what I'm doing is running off the first GFCI outlet is going to be the outlets up high. So that's going to be a circuit up top. And then off the second GFCI outlet is going to be the circuit down on the bottom. So it's going to be the outlets down low. So we'll always know that those are 2 different circuits. So if we need to run 2 big pieces of equipment of some sort, or whether power tools or whatever, we know we can plug them into separate circuits and know where those separate circuits are. This was my thought, at least, and it gives us some low circuits to run down on the ground to keep low, and some high circuits in case we end up putting some workbenches back there. I think I'm going to use that whole back wall just for storage, so I will never use those outlets, but they're there if we need them. And then running on the other side wall, I'm only going to be putting outlets up high because that is where all the workbenches are going to be. So I'm basically going to have 2 outlets that I'm going to be adding, one on each circuit, and then there's a third outlet that's already there that's going to need some work, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we're going to reuse that as its own circuit. And there is one more box that I added on the front wall, or on the wall with the doors, with the overhead door and the pedestrian door, and this is going to be its own dedicated circuit for a refrigerator. So I've got an old fridge that I'm going to be putting in the studio here, so we have access at lunchtime and whatnot. I don't have to leave the studio. I can just keep working, grab some food. So I went down and got a 250-foot roll of 12-2 Romex. The 12 gauge wire is going to be perfect for 20 amp circuits. And I got 250 foot of it. I think that should be enough for what we're trying to do here. And then I just started drilling the 2x4s to run the wire through the wall. And I'm keeping the height of the wire at 20 inches. I really started thinking about this too, like where did I want to run the wire at what height? And I thought it would be safer to keep it low as far as in a garage, because if we're going to hang any shelving or anything, it's probably going to be up high. So I'm keeping it down at 20 inches, and then I'll run do the runs up to the 48 inch and then back down to 20 inches and across. I think that's the best game plan. Let me know if you know any better, if you're an electrician out there, because I by no means an electrician. I should probably said that up front. I am not an electrician. This is just how I'm doing this. In fact, this is the first time I've ever done this. So if you are an electrician out there and you see me doing something way off base, let me know down in the comments below, please. And I ran the circuit from the second GFCI outlet the same way, staying at that 20 inch height, but this one stays at 20 inches because these outlets are down lower. I don't have to make that run up to the 48 inch height. Here you can see both of the 2 circuits run together. And I kept running those 2 circuits all the way down the back wall, the same way that I did it up the side wall, with the hardest part actually being making it through the corner. So those 2 2x4s in the corner are very tight, and it was hard to squeeze the wire through there, staying inside the 2x4. So what I had to do was double up on the holes. And it's my understanding that you don't want to go over 40, or you want to stay under 40%, or removing 40% of the 2x4, the studs. So I tried to make sure and stay well under that, actually well under that 40% of removing material from the studs. But I did have to remove a little bit more so that I could get those wires through the corner and keep it clean. And like I mentioned before, there's an existing outlet already there that's not quite right. So this is actually a 15 amp outlet on a 20 amp circuit, and it's the start of that circuit. And one, it's not a GFCI, which my understanding is required in a garage. Two, it's only a 15 amp that is supporting two 20 amp outlets that are outside, and it's got 14 gauge running into it, 12 gauge running out of it. It's very, I don't know how this got put in or who put it in, but it's not right. But I am going to reuse those outlets outside. I can use the 12 gauge wire that's being used for those. I'll replace this 14 gauge and replace the outlet itself with a 20 amp GFCI, and we'll position this down where it goes. And I'll do all this at a later stage, but I want to make sure it's done right. But right now I want to go ahead and start installing the outlets into our boxes, starting by cutting down the extra wire we have sticking out of the boxes down to 6 inches. I want 6 inches outside of the box. It's my understanding that's the minimum that you should have, that you'd be working with, that you fold back into the box. Now, the extra material I'm going to hold on to because I'm going to use that for pigtails, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But right now, I'm just going to cut the sheathing back, just pull back the sheathing, cut off the extra to expose our ground wire, our neutral wire, and our hot wire. And I'm going to want to strip back about 3/4 of an inch off the ends of the neutral wire and hot wires. And I'm going to do the same thing with those little pieces that we kept that I was just talking about. I want to completely remove the sheathing to expose the ground, the neutral, and the positive wire, and then strip each ends back about 3/4 of an inch. Now, I want to take the pigtails and the incoming and outgoing wires from the box and start connecting all the same colored wires together. So we'll have 3 black wires or hot wires that we need to wire nut together. We have 3 white or neutral wires that we need to wire nut together, and we'll have the 3 grounds that we'll want to wire nut together. Now, make sure and use wire nuts that are the right size for 3 12 gauge or whatever you're doing. If you're using 3 14 gauge, make sure you have the right size wire nut. I found that to be very important. And then what I was doing is just tighten them down as far as I could until I just got a little bit of a twist in the wires. With all the wires wire nutted, now I'm just going to take some needle nose and put just a 3/4 turn in the end of each one of these wires, because this is what we're going to use to make the connection to the outlet itself. And then it's just a matter of making those connections. Starting with the ground wire is going to connect to, or your ground pigtail is going to connect to the ground or the green screw on the outlet. Now, make sure your loop goes around clockwise, because when you tighten that screw down, you want to make sure it pulls that loop with it. And then your hot wire or your black wire is going to go to the gold colored screw, and your neutral or your white wire is going to go to the silver colored screw. And usually these are labeled on the back side of the outlets also, if you don't remember which is which. And now the hardest part I had was actually getting this 12 gauge wire, this heavy wire, to fold back into the box. So I just took my time, and I wanted to make sure that the ground wire isn't going to short out on anything. I don't want it to touch anything metal or anything like that, so I'll have a short. So I just took my time and tried to get that folded in as best I can. And then I was able to just screw in the outlet. I did learn down the line that it's much easier if you fold back the wire nut. Instead of folding the pigtail over top of the wire nut, fold that wire nut back. It makes it much easier to get all that wire pushed into the box. I learned that down the line after I did a few of them. After I got all the outlets installed, I did go back and add nail guards to all the 2x4s. I want to make sure and protect those holes that we drilled where all the wire, or protect the wire running through all those holes that we drilled, just in case we try drilling into those in the future, or try putting screws or nails into those 2x4s in the future. I want to make sure those wires are protected and we don't hit them. And last, I started wiring in the GFCI outlets that are on the sidewall, or they're the start of the circuits. And I'm only wiring in the load side. I'm going to leave that lead side open for now, because I'm not sure the length of wire I'm going to need. I'm not sure if these are going to go to the main box or if we're going to do an expansion box. All that, I think I'm going to consult an electrician on how we need to add these circuits in. So I'm going to leave that side open for now. I don't want to cut wire and it be too short or be way too long, and I waste a bunch of wire. So I just wired in the load side for now. Here's a quick look at everything we've got wired in so far. The garage is a mess, and I think that's going to be the next thing that I do, is actually clean out this garage real quick. I have issue working in areas like this. When it gets real messy, I get anxious. So it's not a problem, but I'm going to clean it up just for my own sanity before we start fixing that one outlet that we need to fix. That's the existing outlet. I also need to wire in or make the run for the fridge's outlet. And then I'm also going to add a 15 amp circuit circuit to the ceiling, to the roof, for lighting. So I'm going to put, I don't know, I think probably 4 outlets in the ceiling where we can plug in lighting. Now, there's already a circuit there for lights. We've got 3 light fixtures in the ceiling that I think I'm going to move around a little bit, more strategically arrange. But I'm also going to add another circuit, a whole another 15 amp circuit for our lighting, which is going to be a lot of like black lighting and purple lighting and different colored LED lighting that we're going to be using to set scenes for the things that we're filming. So I need to do that yet. And I think I'll take care of all that before the next time we get together. And I thank you for joining me this time. I'm going to get this done as quick as I can because I really do want to get back to the regular programming, get back to building stuff for CCG 2084, get to filming CCG 2084. But thanks for joining me, guys. Thanks for being patient. Thanks for sticking around and watching these updates. Really do appreciate it. Hit that like button if you would, if you enjoy these updates. Leave me the comments down below. Let me know if I did something glaringly wrong or if there's something I could do better. Let me know down in the comments down below. Hit the subscribe button if you want to keep up with all this. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.